Okay, so what we're looking at right now is equations, solving equations, and solving inequalities. Now, the equation that we're looking at right now is a multi-step equation that's going to take several things to solve it. This is probably a little bit more complicated than what we've been looking at, but it still involves the same steps, and so we're going to take it step by step and use our process to find x, which is our goal, is to see what the value of x is, what our solution is. Okay, so right here, I've got a 2 that I want to get off of the bottom of that fraction. So what I'm going to do is multiply this entire fraction by 2. Now, if I do that on one side of the equation, I've got to do it on the other side to keep my equation balanced. Okay, now if I'm multiplying by 2 on the top of my fraction and the bottom of the fraction, those two cancel out, and I'm left with x minus 3 equals 2 times 6x is simply 12x. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so now that we've got our fraction gone, we've got x minus 3 equals 12x plus 2. We can combine our like terms. Like terms have the same variables along with the same exponent. Now, my x and 12x have the same variable with the same exponent. And my minus 3 and plus 2 are also like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and combine those x's by subtracting x from the left side. Now that cancels out x. Anything I do on one side of the equation, I must do on the other to keep it balanced. So I'm left with negative 3 equals 12x minus 1x would be 11x plus 2. Now that I've got my x's on the right side, I'm going to pull all the numbers over to the left side by subtracting 2, canceling those out. Subtracting 2, so I've got a negative 5 equals 11x. Now the last bit of this is simply taking that 11 times x using my inverse operation and dividing by 11 in order for those to cancel out, and then doing likewise on the other side so that x, when all is said and done, x is negative 5 elevenths, and that is your solution. Okay, so let's look at another equation. Okay, this one's pretty long. Looks like it's got some parentheses we got to deal with. Because of the parentheses involve variables, you're familiar with PEMDAS, order of operations, we can't actually deal with what's inside the parentheses first. That's why we have to default to distribution, which is taking our 5 and multiplying it times each term inside the parentheses. At the second parentheses, we're taking a minus 1 and distributing that throughout the parentheses. Even though there's not a number there, there's still a minus sign that changes the sign of everything in the parentheses. So 5 times x would be 5x. 5 times a minus 3, or negative 3, would be minus 15. My second parentheses is a minus 1 times a positive x, so that would be minus x. Minus 1 and a minus 5 would be a positive 5, and then the rest of my equation. Okay, so now that I've got all my parentheses gone, I can start combining like terms. I've got a 5x here, minus x, 15, and 5. So I'm going to take 5x minus x, that'll be 4x, a minus 15 plus 5. So if I start at negative 15 and I go forward or to the right on your number line 5 units, that's going to be a negative 10 or minus 10. And again, you still got 20x plus 3. So I'm going to because I've got 20 x's on the right side and 4 on the left, I'm going to go ahead and gather all my x's on the right side. In order for me to do that, I'm going to cancel out all the x's from the left by using my inverse operation of positive 4x. I'm going to get rid of the entire 4x, so I subtract 4x. Anything you do on one side, you must do on the other. And at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and move over this positive 3. The inverse operation of adding 3 is subtracting 3, which cancels that out. So I go ahead and subtract 3 from here. And I've got negative 13 equals 16x. So the last operation, I've got a 16 times x, and I can divide by 16 using an inverse operation. The opposite of division, the opposite of multiplication is division, which cancels that out, and I'm left with a negative 13/16, which is my answer. That's as simplified as I can get. Okay, moving on to inequalities. Inequalities, again, just kind of to reiterate, are worked the exact same way as equations with the exception of our rule for multiplying and dividing negative numbers. So working this out like a normal equation, I would start out by adding a 4 on both sides of my equation. So that would get rid of this 4, canceling it out. Sorry about that. You're actually subtracting 4. So subtracting 4 leaves me with 15, negative 15m is less than or equal to 45. Now, again, pulling my rule, I have a negative 15 times m. So the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide by negative 15 in order to cancel that out, get m by itself. So I'm left with m. Negative 15 divided into 45, which gives me a negative 3 because I have used a negative number that forces me to change the sign. So then this is my answer. Now graphing this, it's going to look something like this. If m is greater than or equal to negative 3, start with 0, 1, 2, 3. Because it's equal to, that means I'm going to have a filled in dot equal to, an open filled in, okay? And then my arrow, because m is greater than negative 3, my arrow is moving to the right. Okay, let's move on to the last example. Again, an inequality that looks fairly involved, but we take it one step at a time and we can work it out. So on the left side, I've got a fraction that I want to try to reduce this, get the fraction out of there. I've got a dividing by 3. I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 3. Multiply by 3. So my 3's on the left side cancel out. When I've got a 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, they cancel, which I'm left with 2 minus x is greater than or equal to 3 times 5. So what this ends up looking like is 3 times 5 times, in parentheses, x minus 3. So I go ahead and combine this 3 minus 5, making that 15 times x minus 3. Again, because that's multiplication, I can go ahead and combine it before. Now, if it's addition or subtraction, there's no way I can do that. It doesn't work. Okay, so go ahead and distribute. Again, because of this x, I cannot combine my parentheses before distributing. So I'll distribute that. So 15 times x is 15x. 15 times a minus 3 or negative 3 would be minus 45. And I've still got 2 minus x. So if I'm going to combine terms, I'll go ahead and move over my x first to the right side. I've got a minus x, so I'll do the inverse operation, which is addition. Something I do on one side, I must do on the other. And I'll go ahead and move over my numbers as well, my whole numbers. I've got a minus 45, so I'll add 45, canceling that out. Add 45. So that I've got 2 plus 45 on the left, which is 47, greater than or equal to a 15 plus 1x, which is 16x. Now I've got 16 times x on one side and a whole number of 47 on the other. I'll go ahead and divide the inverse operation of multiplication to cancel those out. Divide by 16 so that I'm left with 47 sixteenths greater than or equal to x.